Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 87, and tonight we're going to talk last night's Bellator, bit of boxing, MMA news, plus of course look forward to some of the upcoming UFC and Cage Warriors events, and of course talking to another top guest from the world of combat sports. But a little bit of housekeeping, just first of all, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So please do give us a follow on social media. You can follow the show specifically as well on Instagram and Twitter at Danny Batten FS. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications to keep up to date on everything and get all the shows first, all the clips first, and everything. But for more information, you can always look on the social media pages. And if you prefer your podcast in audio form, this podcast and all the podcasts produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation are now part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, which is the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. And you can find all of our shows as well as the numerous other shows that they produce or they have on their roster, shall we say. Visit www.sport-social.co.uk for more information. But joining me as ever, first and foremost, is my co-host. He is a former Cage Warriors world champion and, of course, a legend of British MMA. It is Mr. Daniel Batten. How goes it, my friend?
All right, side listeners. It's been a good weekend, and my God, Bellator's really getting it together. That's all I say for now.
Yeah, they've better than they were. That's all I will say. No, I've been enjoying their cards. Last few have been real good, real good. So yeah, looking forward to having a little chat about that a bit later on. But before that, we're going to have a little chat to our guest for a bit, and I'm very happy to welcome back to the show and the channel. It is none other than Cage Warriors Flyweight title contender, ahead of his title bout. It is Mr. Sam Creasey. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you.
Indeed, very stoic there. I like it. It's never so quiet. No, it's good to have you back, Sam. It's we always enjoy having you on, mate. And
yeah, it's very good to chat.
You're very difficult to speak to. That's the problem. It's it's like pulling teeth trying to get you to open up. But yeah, as I said to you just before we come on, like I think the last time you come on, we were still kind of in our old format where we would have a guest on and we'd have like a bit of a chat about things which you would have coming up and stuff like that. But we were also focused more on like the fights that had gone on that week and stuff. And I used to enjoy that because it was interesting because you get obviously Danny's analysis, but then you'd get different fighters and different coaches giving their take on things. And it was good. The problem was it was long and I felt like we weren't getting to hear enough from the guests in terms of their career, their influences, what they're about. And I think, that's what I'm looking forward to chatting to you with, really, because we haven't had the opportunity to do that. But normally I would now say, how did you get into MMA and all that sort of stuff? And we will get to that. But first and foremost, I think we should discuss the fact that you have a world title fight coming up very soon. In fact, against our guest next week in Luke Shanks, which is going to be interesting. But how are you feeling about that, first and foremost?
Happy to get a fight for the title again. It's against Luke, and we've trained together in the past. And I know he's at BST previously. He's now up at a higher level, and it's going to be a good contest. And I know he's going to come and he's going to give me his everything. So I'm looking forward to the fight.
Does it make it less kind of I don't want to say nerve-wracking because you're an incredibly experienced fighter, but like, is it, I suppose the question is it easier or harder in the run-up to the fight, at least, to be facing someone who you're fairly familiar with?
Kind of
no difference
here and there, that question, because we've trained together in the past. You know, I've known Luke for a long time. I've seen him train, compete for a long time, and he's forever improving. He would probably say very similar about myself. You know, the nerves are not really an issue, because usually after a fight I've been looking for. That me?
Right, no, you were loud and clear, and then you sort of just drifted. You there?
Okay, I've got a load of buzzing in here.
Yeah, I've got buzzing. I've got buzzing as well.
Maybe it's let me just move that over there. Go
on. Sorry, I was saying, like, the nerves really don't really play into it. I know I'm fighting Luke. I know it's for the title. It's going to be whatever the date is. Usually it would be, okay, Ian, who am I fighting next? And then you got to figure out who it's going to be. Your head's thinking, oh, it's probably going to be this guy or that guy, and that's almost the anxiety of your brain, just, you know, processing the thoughts. But it's Luke. It's for the title. We're going to fight. It'll be good. We'll have a drink afterwards.
Sounds good, mate. What about obviously this is the final of a kind of tournament format. How did you sort of prepare, and how did you find your fight in the previous round, I guess you'd call it?
My preparation doesn't really ever change for anybody necessarily. I keep continuing to try to train as best I can, try to improve all of my techniques everywhere, and try and neaten up everything that I can possibly do. You know, what I do in the gym is not necessarily what comes out in the cage often. And in the gym, you might see me really nice and tidy with my hands up, like technique nice and clean. And then in the fight, you might see me with my hands down by my side, doing some wild stuff that I definitely shouldn't be doing. As long as I'm getting better, I can only negate some of those things. Performance against Aaron was good for me. I felt possibly if I'd have kept it on the feet, I could have got him out of there. I could feel like in the first round, the knees to the body were really making an impact, and I could feel him just losing pace a little bit in the first round. But I found as soon as I got to the body lock and I started repeating that same position, that same move to drag him back down, it was almost like this is just rinse and repeat. And then if he does something stupid, crazy to get out, then I capitalize. If not, just bam, 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 same again.
Nice. Yeah, we had Aaron on last week, and obviously, like, Aaron's got an incredible story in himself, and I think anyone is hard pressed to not find like his story and what he's been through incredibly inspiring. Like, what for you? Like, obviously, because like you had Cage Warriors made like vignettes about his story, and and telling the people about it and stuff like that. Is that almost, or could it be distracting if you weren't 100% focused and 100% on your game? Is that something which could be a distraction for you as an opponent?
It could be. It's not. I'm too experienced for that really now. I'm not really interested in anything that comes around the fight apart from the fight itself. It's just another body in front of me. That his story, don't get me wrong, Aaron's story's amazing. I've met the guy before the fight in person, and he's a stronger human than I can imagine. But all of that stuff that is in and around the cage and the stories and that, I really try to take that to one side. My focus is on me, performance, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whenever it is. Out of that, improvement, and then I let people talk or chat in between, and let them do their thing.
So, like, Danny, as a coach, like, same sort of question, I guess. Like, just with the way, obviously, Cage Warriors' job is to promote fights. So, with Aaron's fight versus Sam, they focused on like Aaron's story and they did the vignettes and stuff. As a coach, would you be telling your fighters to kind of, focus on your stuff, focus on what you can control and stuff like that? Obviously, there was no fans in the arena, but what are you looking at that from a coach's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, you got to remember, as an MMA coach, particularly with my situation, I've got other coaches that are involved with the fighters, so it's never just solely down to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a slightly bigger say than the other coaches because I'm MMA specific. But each fighter is different as well. So, the way you mentally approach the fight, student from student, is, different each time, and yeah, it's just done by field basis, really. And some of these fighters now, especially the ones that are sort of going pro, they should have sort of like 10 deep amateur experiences before they even go up to pro. So, they're not exactly inexperienced dudes anyway. I mean, just listening to Sam, and when you look at his fight record, he talks as if he's had 10 more fights than he has. And that's because he had extensive, experience in martial arts, before the MMA and etc. So, each person's different. Some people need more leg work around them mentally to prep them up. Some of them get real nervous, get real tight. Some of them are automatic pilot. There's one guy, Damien Coulger. Do you remember Damien?
Yeah.
Sam, quite big guy. He's one of the easiest. He's just like a robot. Do you want to warm up? Yes. What do you want to do? Punch pads. Hit punch pads. What's your strategy? I'm going to break him. And are you nervous? No. He has his little routine that he wants to do. He gets out there and he always performs really, really good. So, it's really easy. And you get others that are really quite fragile. It's like they're on a balance beam and you just got to keep them balanced as they go out there. It's all different. It's all horses for courses. But with someone like Sam, I know he's well experienced. Like I say, I'd say more experienced than his record suggests. And even his record is an experienced record, So I would have no worries if I was ever going to be coaching him, more closely. Regards his mentality and his thought process going in. I know he knows what he needs to do for him best. And likewise for Luke. Luke's a little funny. Luke's more like a loose cannon. You're going to make a comparison. But he's also very easy in the corner, very, very confident. If anything, he's like a racehorse that you have to be pulling his chin down and not let him go. Or he'll just perform like he did against Hadley. I don't think that was a very intelligent performance. I think he could have made a better fight than he did.
Funny enough, Dan, sorry to jump in, mate. I wanted to you've just mentioned something which is, and someone's asked a live question, and I get to refer it back to something you said about like fighters and coaches in between rounds and things like this. And Reese just asked about in MMA, do the fighters listen to the corner's advice or do they just do their own thing through the fight? So that was the question from the live chat. Obviously, we had Luke's coach on, James Doolan, a while back after that fight, and he sort of mentioned that he felt like Luke got a bit emotionally involved and perhaps wasn't listening to what he was saying in between rounds. Like, how difficult is that, like, for fighters and coaches and everything in between? Like, I suppose there's the potential to be a lot of voices coming in one place, but in, like, Sam is very experienced, Luke's pretty experienced as well. Should it be a mix of all, or should the coaches be the ones making the strategies throughout?
Well, different teams probably will work things slightly different, but with our team, we normally have a high level striker. We'll maybe have a wrestler if it suits that particular fight, that particular matchup, that we need that extra wrestling tuition in between rounds. So it does initially depend. Normally when it's in the striking, normally the striking coach is the one that has the most input. For me, being an MMA, I wouldn't say I'm a specialist in any of the realms necessarily, but I'm certainly, big in playing a part of the strategy on, what kind of tools to throw with your hands or your kicks to try to ignite an opportunity to wrestle. Whereas a wrestling specific coach will be specific wrestling once they've got the engagement. And it's all.
What I'm getting at, I suppose, is who would have, if there was there was like a disagreement in the way, not necessarily how the fight's going, but what to do next to win the fight. Who would have the final say within that sort of group?
Yeah, you have a head coach. Yeah, you have a head coach, or that's how we work things. Anyway, I don't think it's good to have 2 to 3 cornermen, and no one knows who's supposed to be heading, the final decisions on things. But really, regardless of what coaches are in there, the person that's making the choice is the fighter that's in there. Yeah, it's simple as that. Even if I know I do always say this, I say to fighters that when you're in there, I'll suggest an idea. And I'm not in there. You might not feel that what I'm wanting from you is not right. So a good example of this is when I've been cornering Jordan. Now, Jordan's got a really good fight IQ, and he's also calm enough. And he actually has conversations, and he'll signal with head movements to you. He'll do a face expression. He'll talk to you verbally if he's close enough to the corner, and give you feedback. You can literally have a discussion why he's in the fight. It's amazing what he can do, which is why he's a standout. Yeah, they're very rare types of people. And I've not got to do the corner with Sam, but I imagine Sam's very receptive as well. He's very, very calm in there. And for me, Sam's got really good fight IQ as well. I know I've had lots of dealings with Sam regards him coming to our gym, and I think I was the first person to have an influence in your game, wasn't it, for MMA?
Yeah, you were the first coach. You were the first MMA coach for us.
Leighton Buzzard, So I knew very early on, that there was potential with both those brothers and what have you. But coachability, it can be really frustrating. Also being in the corner, there are the fighters that just do what they're going to do, and it is so frustrating. But it's always going to be on the hands of the fighter. It's never really the coach's fault as such. If you teach someone to ride a bike, I always use this analogy. If you teach someone to cycle a bike and then they want to go and do jumps and do all sorts of crazy things and end up having an accident, breaking their arm, it's not your fault. You just try to teach them to do their job the best they can, and they got to go out there and they got to perform the job, and it's always going to be down on them at the end of the day.
Good stuff. Sam, I was just looking then at your record and stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you have most likely got a better memory than me. But I think when we had you on last time, you were just either in the build-up to your sort of comeback fight after a timeout, or it was either just before your comeback fight or just after, if I remember correctly. I forget which way it was. But you're unbeaten since, so it's obviously a good sign. No, it's been on a 3-fight win streak ever since you came on the show, so you know what to do. But I mean, the same sort of questions really that I just asked Danny. Just kind of interested in how your dynamic works with you and your coaches and everything. I don't want you to give away any secrets, obviously, but in terms of the upcoming fights,
there are no real secrets at this level.
Absolutely, totally agree with you, Sam. There isn't.
I mean, here's the thing, right? It's on the fighter. Everything is on the fighter, okay? Because you're the one who's going to go out there and try to do the things that you want to do to win the fight, okay? Your coaches are going to give you hints of places where you can win that fight better, or opportunities that they can see for you, but it's upon you to decide whether, do I go for that in this moment? I don't feel like that moment's open for me. Do I go for something else? Yeah. Or, do I do something stupid and get my ass knocked out? But one thing I do think is, if you're emotionally attached to a moment in the fight, you got to take that voice that's telling you, your that emotional attachment to you is not letting you be calm and think clearly and think intelligently about the fight. It's making you want to react, to do damage to this person. And that is the easiest way to allow them to win, right? They're going to take advantage, because whether you are meaning to or not, you're going to tense up. All these moments are over-exaggerated because that emotional attachment is in your brain, right? And you can't get rid of that voice that's there. I had this when I was younger as an amateur. I would have, my brain telling me one thing, and then the far more intelligent side of my brain telling me something else, this is not the place to go.
Yeah.
You got to clear that from your head, take that energy and throw that away, and be, zoned in on the target. Okay, here's the guy. He's in front of me. What's happening? Okay, I see he's got a big head kick. Let's move away from that. I see a takedown coming. Let's be aware of that. Your corner is going to be giving you all of these cues anyway, right? but it's upon you to take that opportunity to deal with it, or to express yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think not that I would have been any good anyway, but like I think that's why I never would have been able to be a fighter, because I think I definitely would have let my emotions cloud what I was doing. 100%. I'd have definitely either gone steaming in there or like, I don't know what it wouldn't have gone well. I know that much. I've had a few questions. Craig says, and Danny, you'll be in quite a good position to answer this as well, obviously, because you went out to Fight Island and stuff with Modestus with the UFC. He says, hearing all the reports about McGregor since his fight with Poirier, and he had gone into the fight with quite a serious injury. And Craig sort of says, what checks happen before your fights, and how much would that change depending on the level and the event? So I guess asking, if he had a relatively serious injury, how was it able to not be picked up pre-fight?
Well, meaning like that health checks on the fight.
Yeah, so there's been some stuff I think this week saying that the leg, like obviously the leg which he broke was badly damaged beforehand. So if that's the case, shouldn't it get picked up in some sort of checks in the run-up?
Not always. I mean, they're not giving you a full body scan. I mean, they could do a body scan weeks out, but you can pick up an injury at any time. Listen, the truth of the matter is, a fighter never goes in 100% regards their physicality.
Cancel every fight. Every fight.
Yeah, these fighters, they endure so much in their training. I don't think people quite understand. Even if it's a hurting toe, there's always something that's going to be hurting you before you go in there. Nothing ever is 100% plain. So, it can do, I guess, but it's such a rarity. It's just it's normal. But regardless, something as serious as that, listen, if you want to keep a serious injury secret, it's possible to do so. But again, that's a decision for you as a fighter and for you as a fight team if you're all in on it. He took that risk and he paid an ultimate consequence for it. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to take a fight with knowing I had a fracture.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. So in terms of like medical checks, they'll have like the heart scans and all this sort of stuff. And then like they do their fight camp and stuff, and they do the weigh-ins, and you have some checks over that sort of period. But the UFC on a whole, apart from the USADA doing the drug testing and stuff, they wouldn't do like a health check, would they, in the build up to the fights, in terms of checking that fighter's fit and not carrying any serious injuries?
No, I mean, right? they do that on the fight medical, on the fight day medical, but they ain't doing no extensive medical check other than that. I think they have to do things like brain scans leading up to the fight and the blood tests and what have you. But like I say, if you pick up a serious injury and you don't want to mention about it,
it's relatively simple to do so.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why I just wanted to check that, because I thought that was the case, but I was.
And to be honest, in UFC, the coaches don't get to see the medicals or anything. Everything's so well organized. The fight gets taken off. They go get their medical. Everything's so structured. And to be honest, it's a very comfortable experience for a coach. Other fight events on the UK circuit, there's a whole lot more stress. You're sharing warm-up rooms with loads of people, and there's all sorts of things going. You've got a lot of friends and family sneaking backstage, and that still goes on a lot. Not so much maybe on the Cage Warriors, sort of like that sort of serious promotion. So, as a coach, some things are so easy. UFC takeover, you're there literally just to coach your fighter. You don't get involved on anything else. Everything else is sorted out for you.
Sam Donna Perry in the chat asks, how many hours a day do you train, and do you ever have a rest day, or do you train every day?
I probably do 2 or 3 sessions a day. It'd probably be maybe an hour 2 hours for each one. So maybe between 3 and 4 hours a day, I guess, of training. I don't really take rest days. I'll take a lighter day, perhaps, where I'm looking at just some movement stuff, perhaps, instead of like trying to overload my body with anything live. But I've found that if I have a rest day, I wake up stiffer than ever the next day, and it takes me another day before I get back into training properly. So I would rather take a much lighter day, but still move my body a lot. Do some recovery stuff where I can, and I'm always trying to improve. So
yeah, of course,
I can't shut off.
yeah.
I can tell. Don't you see by his Instagram and his Facebook? He's always posting stuff.
He's always in some way, isn't
he? Crazy stuff. It just goes to show that he's not only in love with the sport that he does and has so much success with, but he's got it as a part of his life's routine, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
He literally lives and breathes it, and that's why he's achieved as much as he's achieved. And in my mind, Sam's not achieved his full potential still. I think, just because of circumstances of certain results that happened, I didn't think they should have gone that way. It has robbed him from getting to UFC. Sam Creasy should be in UFC, and he knows I say this to him, but he should be there. And certainly if he beats Luke Shanks, which is an absolute possibility. I'm watching that fight as a pure fan because obviously they're both my friends. So I can sit back and not have to pick a winner. I'm just going to watch it out of the sheer enjoyment of knowing that they're both very different stylists, very, very different people. And I'm going to love watching it.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Yeah. I cannot wait for that fight, I got to say.
It is going to be a really good. It's stylistically, it's really, really good. Listen, the differences that I would say between them is that Luke Shanks is always going to chase down. He's almost going to pressure you and crumble you because of the pace. Where Sam's more calculated. He'll find a weakness and then really keep prodding there. I think when Luke beats you, he just starts breaking you. And so this is where it's going to be really, really interesting
as well, isn't he?
Yeah, you got someone like Sam that seems to be in utter control of every limb, from his little toe to his little finger. He's got in control of everything. But if he could get pushed out of that, it could go in Luke's favor. But likewise, Luke's got to be careful not to open up so many opportunities to be taken advantage of, because once Sam finds that weakness of whatever you're going to allow him to have, I worry that Luke won't adapt and change to hide that weakness. That's sort of like the weakness, I would say, for Luke, and the strength for Sam. It's who can ruffle whose feathers. It's going to be absolutely interesting. And whoever wins, man, great. I'll be happy for them, and I'm sure because they know of each other and they've always been friendly with each other, they'll be shaking hands, like Sam says, they'll be having a beer afterwards, and things will move on. But yeah, that's my take on it anyways.
It'll be fascinating.
For what it's worth.
There you go. Following up on the medical question, Reese says, do fighters get mental health checks or anything like that just because of the mental toughness that you have to, if you lose a couple of fights and you're chasing a win, you can make a mistake? But also I'd add to that myself is concussions, and the more we learn about concussions almost on a weekly basis, is there anything in place, whether it's UFC or Cage Warriors, like from that side of things for fighters? Do you know, Dan or Sam, anyone? Danny first.
Well, mental health is something that keeps being brought to light more so in everyday living, isn't it? So I'm sure if people have certain mental issues, you would hope that they're getting that seen to on a personal basis. But the only promotion that I know that has any kind of coverage for any difficulties you might have on the mental side of things is UFC. UFC is an absolutely amazing experience. It really is. I'm not too sure. So have you had an experience with UFC regards calling in fighters or going out with fighters?
No,
yourself?
nothing of that sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible experience. It really is. They'll tell you as the dietitian that's working out all their food plan. They take your weight at different times, and they'll give you a different food set. the next following day. They personalise everything. And you also can call upon a physio 24 hours a day. So if you're in bed and got a cramps at 2 o'clock in the morning, you call them up. They're either coming up to see you if that's the case, or you're going to go down to see them. They're there for you 24 hours a day. And again, for any mental issues that you might have, you can make a call, you can chat it out with someone. I don't think there's a stone left unturned with it. It's a truly impressive promotion. It really is. I've never experienced anything like it.
What about concussion protocols and stuff like that? Is that just down to the on-site? So like in Cage Warriors, Sam, I'm assuming you get checked over after a fight by the doctor on site. Is there kind of any particular protocols or whatever in regards to concussions and stuff like that?
I mean, I think there are. I haven't been privy to them yet. I haven't needed to be.
Well, that's good. I suppose,
I do know that fighters have sat beside me and said to the doctor, I need a little bit longer. And even the doctors have said to them, look, I'm not comfortable with you leaving yet. We need to double check you again in however long. And then we're going to make sure that you're safe, which is obviously, that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Walk out of there and that's it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, and concussions, it does feel like we're learning stuff about concussions every week, like more and more. So I think that's something for me, which I think particularly the long-term effects of what that can do to you is like when your job is to get punched in the head every day, whether it be training, fighting and stuff, I think you need that sort of extra bit of help. But it is different. So like a lot of the guys who are asking the questions, they're kind of like football fans so like if you were under like a football club, then the football club looks after all your medical stuff, and they would have things like mental health officers or concussion protocols and all these different things, which is covered by the club or the Premier League or the Football League or whatever it may be, whatever they're a member of. Whereas it's different in mixed martial arts, isn't it? Because you, like Danny's talked about before, all the things, the different things, the medical checks and things that you've got to do on a European level, I suppose would be the right way to put it. You have to pay for yourself. Whereas I think if you signed to X amounts of fights to the UFC, they think they probably cover it in some way, shape or fashion. But it's stuff which has got to be done, I guess, isn't it? But it's completely different to other sports, maybe in that where a football club would cover the costs of everything and have all these different members of staff in place to look after different things, isn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously the money involved with a football club as well will cover a lot of those costs. The mental health thing really I found a lot easier in a martial arts gym, as people appear to be a lot more open about talking in that environment. You know, and I've seen people go through issues before or after fights, and around just the general life and that. The gym has helped them. Those people in there, they've opened up to, and that can be their help sometimes. But I guess we don't really have that kind of I don't know, access to a counsellor or something or as yet. But
then I still see. But then on the other hand, I think that's good because I think, and I'll be interested. I might even put it to some of the footballer where we have one tomorrow night. I might even put that to them because I can't imagine from my conversations with previous footballers, and I can't imagine two footballers be sat next to each other in the changing room, say, and talking about what they might be struggling with or things getting to them because they're either scared of losing their place or being seen as being weak or whatever it may be in the manager's eyes. So like, whilst in MMA, you might not have access to the same members of staff that a football club has. You've got a different side of it, which is more positive, like you say, which everyone's different as well. And I think everyone deals with things in different ways and stuff. It's an interesting thing. It's not a question I expected to come up. Reese said, Sam, what's your diet like in the build up to a fight? What sort of foods are you avoiding eating? Like how much do you have to lose from what you walk around at, Sam, to make flyweight?
I pretty much walk around at 64 kilos, whether I'm in shape or not. Apparently, that appears to be my weight that my body likes to sit at. It does help that even when I'm not training for a fight and I'm not worried about my diet at all, I'm still training pretty consistently. Whatever I'm doing, if I'm not in the gym, I'm still out doing something. Diet during the fight, really, I'm just neaten things up a little bit more. It's pretty much, energy expenditure for what session I'm going to do that day. How many calories do I need? I'll be quite honest. I could do most sessions a day fasted if necessary. I don't really think food is that important to me for the training, but I just neaten things up pretty much. And I think I'm blessed with good genetics. I can get away with a lot of stuff that others can't really in a fight camp. So ice cream on the menu every evening.
Some of us are just blessed, Sam, with great genetics. Unfortunately, it's just it's a crux we have to bear. Danny, what I was going to say is, I've forgotten what it was now. It's gone. It was a really good question.
We're live as well.
It's live. Sorry, I'll let it out what it was, the version. Brett Swift follows on and says, do you think enough is being done to help mental health of fighters, whether it's MMA, boxing, whatever it may be? And I suppose I'll add to that as well and say both in the short term, but also in the kind of long term as well.
Who's that to?
You. Well, I said Dan.
I suppose you could always do more. I think initially mental health is a personal issue that sometimes need outside help with. I'm not someone that personally suffers from it in any way. And so it can be a little bit hard for me to perhaps understand in the full context. I have people around me with mental health issues, so I know it's a very real thing. I don't know whether it's really the place of regular promotions, if you will, to have things in place to protect people with mental health issues. Yeah. To be honest, for the most part, being in combat one-on-one with someone is probably not the best for someone with mental health issues anyway. Not saying that they can't succeed with it, but I would presume it would become a little bit more of a tough process to go through, I presume. But again, this is from someone that don't really suffer from it. So I don't know, perhaps someone who suffers mental health issues, who is a fighter, if they're willing to come out to admit such. I think quite often mental health issues is something that still many people are embarrassed about, and it's kept very, very personal. I think there's more responsibility on coaches being aware of their students. I think it's more for them, if anything. Other than that, really, it's still left as a grey area largely. But like I say, someone like UFC, they left nothing unturned. I think if you need help with some mental health issues, the day before the fight, they'll have support there for you.
Right. So that was what the question I wanted to go back to was. Donna asked earlier on, why isn't MMA an Olympic sport? And again, I'll add to that. Do you ever think it could be, Sam? Outsiders do not like MMA generally.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. But did you see who won the gold in? Was it the karate? The guy who got knocked out?
Yeah, that's right. There was funny with it, wasn't it? He got knocked out, but the guy who got knocked out won the.
Yeah, I think there's a preference for semi-contact.
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's right. Yeah, so he knocked him out, and
I would be very surprised if it came to the point where. Well, I don't know. I'd love it to be put forward, because it's a great platform, and the IMAF guys are doing great stuff for all the fighters around the world to give them a platform to succeed. But whether it will or not is another question entirely,
So Go on, Dan.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's an impossibility for it to go into the Olympics, but I think if it did, it would perhaps be done with some shinny steps on, some so it looks like the fighters are protected in some form. I just don't think they will ever allow it that you're in there wearing skimpy pants, nothing else on you other than a set of paper thin leather mitts, punching the crap out of each other and elbowing each other's temples. I think if it does go into Olympics, it'd be a more diluted version, and almost be done almost, I suppose you would say, on an amateur levels or amateur rule set. It might be able to pass then, but I don't think it's coming in anytime soon.
Isn't it? It's the amateur rules and stuff. I'm not sure about the other martial arts, what the rule differences are.
Yeah, and I think in that aspect, it could be great. I think if it's done like an amateur format, I think it could be great to promote youngsters' careers of boxers. You get boxers become Olympic champions, they never to progress and end up becoming really good professional boxers. So maybe a format could be sorted out for MMA, but it'd have to be a diluted film. I just don't think they allow things like elbows and seeing people cut open. I just think it's just too visually shocking for.
What
for
about
people.
Sorry, Dan, to cut you off, mate. I was just thinking then. So for amateur MMA and professional MMA, is there a rule difference in regards to contact?
No, not the contact. So still full contact. Apart from quite often we'll wear shin steps, although that's even not the case anymore with amateurs. But you're not allowed to throw elbow strikes. Quite often you're not allowed to do knees to the head standing. So visually, it's a much more softer.
Yeah, and I think
experience
that's the thing
for the viewer.
That's the thing that the mainstream media pounce on a lot with MMA, is those knees and elbows to the head when you see someone cut open, and they call it barbaric and cage fighting and this, that, and the other. I think it has got better, and even having Bellator on BBC, for instance, and the BBC iPlayer, I think that's a massive step forward, because the BBC and Talk Sport, two of the biggest broadcasters in terms of sport in Britain, were also quite vocal in their criticism of MMA. And I think the fact that Bellator's got that BBC contact is a good, a really big forward step. And like a few people have said in the chat, Dave Short said we've had judo in the Olympics for a long time now, taekwondo's there now, karate, so why not MMA as well? And Reese says boxers have to wear head guards and certain weight gloves. You can only be an amateur, no professionals. So maybe they'll bring it in. I would love to see it, as long as, for me personally, I wouldn't want it to be too watered. I understand the need for it to be maybe a bit more aesthetically pleasing for sort of people who are not familiar with it. I do get that. But I wouldn't want it to be so many changes that it doesn't look like MMA anymore, if that makes sense. I still want it to be sort of true to the sport, as it were.
And the visually it has to be a certain way as well. So I really don't think you would see a format of MMA going to the Olympics where they can be uncovered, from the upper extremities of their body. I think you'll see them in rash guards. I think you're seeing with shin steps, a bigger weighted glove. So instead of 4 ounce, probably 6 ounce MMA gloves. And I think then it could pass as an Olympic sport. And I think that's certainly something for the
wear
future.
On the tops. They wear vests.
They wear vests. Top, yeah. But you're not going to have bare-bodied people competing.
No, they don't like.
And sport like that.
They wouldn't have Sam showing off his tan.
No, look at Sam there. I mean,
he's just his glorious hair and his tan.
I'll take mine off and shame
about ourselves. Well, that's it. Yeah. Like I said, some of us are just genetically gifted.
One of the listeners, Dave Short, I've noticed he made a couple of little comments on there, and I noticed he's been on this week.
Face for radio.
Yeah. He was actually one of the guys that taught me a lot back in my very, very early years. We was both training under a guy, Lee Hasdall. Some people might not have heard of this guy now, but true pioneer of the sport. And Dave Short was someone that had really good judo. Big guy, scary looking dude. He can strike some too, but yeah, he's one of the people that gave me some great tips throughout the early years of my career that stuck with me. Fantastic guy. And, this guy fought some really tough dudes back in the very early years. We're talking in the 1990s, fought the likes of Ian Freeman. Ian Freeman went on to have a big impact in UFC. And the particular fight that they had, Dave Short was winning all the way through with his emphatic throws, but just got succumbed to the pure pressure of Ian Freeman. We all knew Ian Freeman was going to be someone special, and Dave would agree that he was past his physical prime at the time at having to fight someone like Ian Freeman, who was coming up and looking absolutely devastating. But just give you an idea of who Dave Short is all about. Fantastic guy. So a little shout out for him, and thanks for the early influences in my career, because it took me a long way.
Well, he says there, what about the ring format that you guys used to fight in back in the day? Would you think that would be better for the
I think he's he could be on about the rings rules. So rings was promotion in Japan. I don't think they really run it this way anymore. And Pancras Japan, which is a very long running promotion, they now do it as full on MMA. I actually fought on Pancras. You had some amazing fighters come through there. You had Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Bash Rutin. You had all sorts of amazing stars coming on. So it's a real something for me to have competed on that promotion as well myself. They used to use open hand strikes to the head and closed fists to the arms, body and legs. So absolutely, yeah, that format could absolutely work. And they used to wear shin protection as well. And again, the only thing I think you could add into that would make it acceptable and more palatable and visually for something like the Olympics is to wear a rash guard. And yeah, so absolutely, that could be a format. But the only risk of that format of having open hand strikes and not wearing any type of glove is, when some of those slaps become punches by accident, or I don't know. I just think it's prone to mistakes on the fighters. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I still think the best way to go about it is to have slightly bigger glove.
But even with the karate, they had, like you mentioned in the final, where the guy knocked him out and he got penalized for, because it's supposed to be semi-contact, isn't it? So it's interesting, really interesting. Another conversation I didn't expect to have, but I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed that so much. I'm going to clip that discussion on the Olympics out and use that. But see, Donna and Reese coming in with the hard hitting questions, and then you've got Dave Short providing the knowledge. Incredible. So Sam, we're going to go all the way full circle now, right back before you go. Tell us a little bit about your introduction into martial arts, because obviously your nickname is Sam Urai Creasey.
Brilliant.
It is phenomenal, and do you know what, it took me a while to get it, but when I got it, I was like, that is just incredible stuff. Obviously I got it before today, but it was really good. So you've obviously got an influence from martial arts as such, and I'm kind of interested in how young that began and how it became a thing, and from there, really, mate.
Okay, so everybody thinks I'd have had a lot of martial arts training when I was younger, but I didn't. I was really, really, really a very, very late starter to this. Okay. I had no idea what any fighting was really, apart from boxing, until I was probably my late teens. My brother introduced me to the UFC, showed me some tapes. I told him, that won't work, mate. You can't do that. The boxers, no chance. They're just going to give you a right hand or an uppercut. That's not going to work. I was playing rugby at the time, because obviously I liked contact. But I didn't have any other form of contact, or hadn't been ever introduced to a martial arts gym or anything like that, kind of locally to me at the time, and hadn't looked into it myself, to be quite honest. My brother dragged me down to a gym It was a snooker hall for some boxing sessions and that. I say boxing sessions. It was like, my brother was very technical, and I could have a fight. So that's pretty much how it went for probably a year or so. And then the local gym in Leighton Buzzard opens. I was invited down there. My brother again dragged me down, told me this is, this is the thing you'll be good at, and he was really interested in it. So I went down with him, got my ass kicked plenty. Danny was here for a little while in between. Got my ass kicked even more. Taught me some really good lessons and that, and pretty much since then I've just been gaining experience, going out and learning, making mistakes, coming back to the gym, fixing those mistakes. And I'm like I don't know, patchwork in bit of clothing that you're trying to fix all the time, right? I've probably got the athletic ability. I've got some habits that are not necessarily good for MMA, or the intelligent MMA fighter, but they leave me in good stead for being mentally strong and having the ability to dig deep and go where I need to go to win a fight when it gets nasty. And I've evolved over time from what I thought was fighting to where I am now, where I'm in a coaching role as well. And I like to show my students the safest way to win a fight and the quickest way to win a fight, sustaining the least amount of damage, and then go into a fight and not do the same myself. But yeah, my journey is a funny one, and it's been lots of ups and downs and that, and but it's one I wouldn't change for anything. These experiences that I've had, I get to go back and teach people, don't ever do this again. Please don't go to this place. Don't ever try and do a weight cut like this. This is what I thought a weight cut was. This is what I thought. This was the way you were supposed to fight. This is how you rehydrate. That's kind of my story until we're here now.
How much of an influence has your brother had on you?
A lot. He makes me accountable.
Yeah.
We're good at rubbing off on one another. And we're a test to see where we are.
What the hell, Sam?
Right?
We're a good test of where we are because there's no hiding. You understand? When we do our rounds, if I go good rounds with my brother, I know that I'm ready for a fight. I'm ready for a fight there and then. Yeah, because he's going to push me. And he'll know how far I need to be pushed and hold back, and how much I need to work on it. And then he's honest with me afterwards. Here today, Sam, you were shit. You can't do that. Yeah, don't fluff around like that. Don't do all of that shit. Get your head on. Get your hands up. Fight me like you want to fight me, not like you're trying to pick your shots and try and run away or be tippy tappy or do too much footwork today or this or that. This is a fight. This is what's going to happen. This guy's going to do this. He's going to be in your face. So it makes me accountable for my performances in the gym every day, and I try and do the same for him.
I'd imagine, like I think in any form of profession or life or whatever, like that honesty is vital, and sometimes you can only get that honesty from a family member, because other people, no matter how professional they are and how much like they're going to try and do the job and whatever it may be, sometimes it takes a family member to say, mate, that was absolutely shite. Up your game or do better or whatever. Whereas someone else, a professional, a coach or whoever it may be, they might just they'll still say it, but like in a way that maybe doesn't get through to you as clearly as a family member. I think it's kind of interesting. And I'm assuming that goes both positive and negative as well. So like if you're doing something well, and obviously your brother is a fighter himself.
He's very good. Yeah. I can tell you that He comes down to our gym a fair bit, and he's very, very good. Trust me.
Has he got anything lined up at the moment?
He didn't he?
Yeah, he was supposed to
fight. He had a couple cancelled, haven't he?
Yeah, he got a couple of cancelled, but he got COVID pretty bad. That wiped him out, and then he's back. He's in the gym again now. He's building his fitness back up, and he's still a savage. So, you know.
There you go. We'll have to get him on one day. I'd like to chat to him, see what he says about Sam Creasey.
Hopefully not about rubbing off on each other.
Well, that's it. It's a family show, and Sam and bringing the tone down. Absolutely. Right, to finish off, Sam, before we let you go, I want to do something which is called a one-word game, where we just...
Don't have to be one word.
Just give you a list of names, and then you just say the first thing that comes to mind about that person. Doesn't necessarily have to be one word, but just sort of short and sweet. And then also, I want you to promote the Cage Warriors title fight for the people who maybe are not familiar with you or Cage Warriors. Tell the people a bit about the fight. Not promote it, but just tell the people a bit about the fight and when it is and where they can watch it and all that jazz. But which one do you want to do first, mate?
Up to you. You go ahead, mate.
Got it. We'll do the one-word game. Do the one-word game. One-word game. Okay. So, nice and easy. Nice and easy to start. Conor McGregor.
Flash.
Jake Hadley.
Gazer.
Jake and Logan Paul.
Talk too much.
Dana White.
Money man.
Jack Shaw.
Supreme athlete.
And then the final two, we have Tyson Fury.
Comeback story.
And Mike Tyson.
Destruction.
Stuff. I like it. So, Danny, before we get Sam to give Cage Warriors and stuff a little bit of a plug, is there anything which you wanted to ask him before he goes?
Just really, I know you sort of said that your preparation, normally doesn't change. You do your set routine, but there must be temptation to, at least mentally, have some expectations of what you're going to come up against. Not only because Luke's obviously got a lot of fights you can watch back on, but you have extensively sparred each other. You know what he pushes good, and you know what is naturally been weak in his game in the past. Does that play some kind of thought process of what your expectations are going to be?
He does, right? But I've made that mistake before where my focus is too much upon them, right? He's a southpaw. I'm sparring with southpaws anyway. If he's an orthodox and decides to go orthodox against me, I'm regularly sparring with orthodox guys anyway. He's got great hands. He's a pressure fighter. So I'm going to try to pick guys when I'm in the gym to either give me that tell, or I'm going to try and give some of that myself so I can see what they do, see what their tells are as well. And then I'm going to maybe use some of those things. But really, it's about me performing the things that I do best. And, we've sparred before and we've been there, we've done that. I know it's going to be a tough fight. There's no doubt about it. He's going to come, he's going to punch me in the face and I've got to deal with it. So kind of roll with the punches, as they say. I've got to be intelligent, not let myself become emotionally attached and, fight clearly and calmly and pick my shots, wherever they may be, like flying hook or something.
That was good. Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, Gaz says, superb show again, lads. Great guest, Sam Creasey. Come back with the belt soon. There you go. But I think like we said earlier, I cannot wait to watch Sam Creasey versus Luke Shanks for the flyweight title in not too long. You can watch it on UFC Fight Pass, and I would urge everyone to watch it because it is going to be incredible. But Sam, if you could say one thing about why people should watch Luke Shanks versus Sam Creasey, what would it be?
It will be chaotic. You know, Luke brings that pressure. You saw it in the last fight. If he gets in any adversity, that probably makes him twice as strong. He came back in that fight and he brought it like you didn't even see in the first round, you know. And I'm expecting that same heat from him. I like to fight like that as well. I try not to. I try to keep that nice and long, keep the distance, use my tools, my advantages, and that. But I do love a dogfight as well. And you know, if we're going 5 rounds, we might end up there. So everyone should tune in and watch.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited for it. Do you know which date it is now? Do you know if it's on the 30th, the 1st, or the 2nd?
I am not 100% sure, but I should really try and find out something.
Yeah, you probably should know. Don't want to turn up on the wrong day or something, do you? 30th September, 1st of October, and 2nd of October, the Cage Warriors Trilogy. They always put on incredible shows, and it's going to be superb. Cannot wait. I urge you all to watch it. And of course, we'll be joined by Sam's opponent next week, Luke Shanks, which is going to be interesting. But first and foremost, Sam, thank you so much for joining us, mate. People have been very complimentary about you as a guest, about your hair, and about your tan. So there you go. It's like you've ticked all the boxes. But from my personal point of view, you've just made me miss my long hair. Greatly.
and mine.
Yeah, well, it's a long. At least I can remember my long hair. But me and Danny are going to still be here for about 25 minutes now. We're going to talk about last night's Bellator, which I hope you all watched on BBC iPlayer, among other things. We're going to have a little chat about the latest news and stuff, answer some questions. But Sam Creasey, I thank you for joining us, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Take care, yeah?
Cheers.
Cheers, Sam. Sam Creasey, what a legend. He's such a nice guy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he's just an all-round good dude. It's going to be an incredible fight. I cannot wait for it, mate. It's going to be so good. A few people were just asking some questions about how to watch the fights. Craig said, how do we watch the fights? So the Cage Warriors fights are, I believe you can watch the prelims. Normally, you can watch the prelims, which is normally 3 or 4 fights before the main card. And you do get some really good fights on those as well. There's some big names sometimes. These trilogy cards have been jam-packed all the way through. They're on cagewarriors.com, I believe. Possibly the YouTube channel, I'm not sure. And then the main cards are on UFC Fight Pass, which is an app or a website. I believe you can watch it on. Yeah, you can watch it on the website because I've watched it on my computer before when Weez is doing shows. So it's going to be interesting, my friend. That is, looking forward to it. But yes, so last night, mate, we had Bellator with 264. Jihad Mousasi is still going.
Looking better and better.
And he looked so good, so good. Finished about 2 minutes into the 3rd round, but I've only seen clips of this show. I've seen bits and pieces of it, so I'm going to rely on you predominantly for it. But we'll go through and have a little chat. So we had Mousasi versus Salter first and foremost, mate.
Yeah. Really good fight to watch. Salter is more of a wrestler. He can strike some as well. You know, you can't just stand with your hands down, with him. But his intentions were really clear. He wants to take people down. He wants to overwhelm you on the ground. He's very, very quick to work. So he's not someone that just takes you down and works a little bit of ground and pound. He'll take you down. He'll progress his position and start chasing those subs through the ground and pound, all in a fast reaction. A real devastating transitionalist. When I say that, I mean from the striking to wrestling for the ground and the positions that ensue will all be done in a matter of seconds. So, yeah, if you allow him to run away with his game, an absolutely devastating fighter. Masashi, as we know, has got a massive striking background, but also an underrated grappling game. I think he's woefully more effective on top and has showed weakness in the past in his wrestling defense. And, of course, going up against someone like Salter, not a good idea not to have your wrestling sorted out. And it looked like Salter might have been getting his way with Masashi in the first 2 rounds because he was getting into the ground. He was smothering Masashi, but Masashi was doing such a good job of not only making it difficult for Salter to get him down, having to burn up a lot of energy. He was stopping Salter being able to be proactive on the ground because he kept sitting his back up against the fence. And, of course, when you do that, if you try to ground and pound or let go of the position, you can allow them to get back to their feet. And that was a problem Salter was having. Salter couldn't figure out the conundrum of getting Masashi down and then getting proactive, which is how he's got all his previous winning results. So it was an absolute interesting contest. But, of course, it's over 5 rounds. And as the 5 rounds started to play out, Salter's physical wrestling attitude towards the fight began to really wear on his physicality. He began to look less effective. He was getting hit more on the feet. And then he had to start bailing out on his shoot attempts that began to foul. He had to start accepting bottom position. And Masashi was just being so much more effective. And the difference between the two was, like I say, Masashi, when he was put on his back, was sitting his back up against the fence. And you had someone like Salter that when he was put on his back, which is a real rarity because all his wins come from his top position play, he was on his back literally, and Masashi's just too effective and dangerous there, and that's how Masashi got the win eventually. He had too much time on top, and the ref had enough and stopped the bout. I think, was it in round 3, 4? Can't remember. Round was 3. Yeah, but Masashi's looking better and better. Yes, he got taken down, but he wasn't taken down so straightforward, and he was so good at protecting those legs from being hooked up, which is what we saw Habib doing to so many people. He had a really good leg positioning, which goes to show me that he's aware, he's adapting his game. He knew what he was up against with Salter, and he put the preparation into his training regime, and it showed through in the fight. Looked a little frustrated in the first round. Come out in the second round, really switching it up, using striking in a way that we not normally see Masashi. Normally Masashi is so much more, ploddy and he chips away, but he was really being reactive and looked really frustrated, like he really wanted to push Salter into deep water regards his physicality, knowing that was going to be the answer to get the win. And he absolutely was such an experienced guy that's continuing to evolve and truly looks really, really unstoppable at the moment in that division.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I've also I just put a link in the chat on the various platforms, which is the BBC's report of last night's main event, but it's also about halfway down the page. It's got links to each of the fights from the main card.
Yep.
So if the people who I know who are slowly getting more and more into watching MMA and stuff and joining us on the Sunday, if you wanted to watch the Bellator fights from last night, I think there's 5 on there, and they're all free to watch and stuff, so they're all there. But the next one we're going to talk about is Koreshkov versus Hamasi, which was another good one, mate.
Yeah. Hamasi was looking really good in the first round. Comes with a lot of intensity, not afraid to use lots of energy to try and get what he wants, and kind of looked really like he was going to be super effective. But that Koreshkov, just such a cool cookie, never really got overly flustered, started to look better and better as the fight went on. He really took dominantly that second round. And in the third round was doing really, really well again. And really, I've got to commend Hamasi because he was really on the receiving end of a lot of elbows, knees and punches and was really looking at assaults at one point. But he dug deep and he kept pushing the exchanges and actually had time on top to win the round in the third round, but it was too little too late. He really lost out big on those second and third rounds, but both of them put up an absolute brilliant performance. But Koreshkov, very, very good. Very, very good.
Yes, indeed, mate. It was exceptional. And then we had Rafael Stotts versus Makhmed Makhmedov. He defeated Makhmed Makhmedov by unanimous decision. I haven't seen this one, so you'll have to go for this unanimous decision. But just to say, the ranked 4 beat ranked 3. So this was a bit of a shock, should we say?
I've got a new guy that I'm going to be watching really, really closely about his career. This Stotts is something special. It's hard to say his name. Magomedov is an incredible athlete. Can strike. He can wrestle extremely well, as we know. He's Kyrgyzstani, I think, wherever he's from. We all know, we all know they can wrestle in a slightly different way than the Americans do. They're so super efficient. It just transitions so naturally well over to MMA, and they've really been a dominant force since they come over to UFC, Bellator, etc. And Magomedov was doing amazing, really doing amazing things, but Stotts was just doing even more amazing things. There was one time when Stotts did finally get taken down, and he did an amazing reversal. It seems everything Magomedov did, Stotts had an answer to. And it was just, his wrestling was amazing. There was times when Stotts was up on one leg, it looked like he was going to be run down with a single leg or a crutch lift, or run from a single into a double, but his sense of balance and his upper body positioning to stop Magomedov being able to transition and bully him in the wrestling was really amazing. A true athlete in every sense of the word. Creative as well. He was really creative, and both of them was. They both performed so well. They can both pat themselves on the back, but of course, it's all about results at the end of the day. And Stotts got the result, but he's something special. Anyone that fights this guy, you're not having it easy in any realm, but his wrestling is where it really, really shone out for me. But, we can so easily look at fighters and look at what they're doing well regards to their aggressive aspects. But really, it was his ability to defend, the aggressive striking into takedowns. The way he defended those was what really impressed me about it. To me, look, someone throwing a windmill punch can knock someone out if it lands on the jaw just right. But when you've got really, really good defense, whether it's striking defense, takedown defense, jiu-jitsu defense, they're the things that really, really impress me, because it's done under pressure. And he was just so effective under pressure, just stayed so calm and come with some amazing creativity to reverse the positions. There was one point when he had Magomedov's back trying to choke him out, and it really looked promising. He was on his back for quite some time, I believe over a minute. But the defense also of Magomedov was incredible, and actually ended up reversing the position and had Stotts back for a while. But it was too little too late for him. Stotts, man, look out for this guy. And honestly, this is one to watch, because I think we'll be talking about both these guys a lot more in future Bellator events.
Absolutely, mate. I saw a few people saying that they should run this back straight away, Stotts versus Makhmedov, because
I don't think they should.
But yeah, I agree. I was watching a little bit of it while you were talking then, and like, I'd like to see Makhmedov go and fight someone else now. And by the time they could come back around and be fighting for the title next time, if
that's right.
Continues,
they'll be fighting each other again, without doubt. I think they're quite potentially top 2 in that division, and I think that they're going to be bumping gloves again soon. I'm sure, naturally. But to run it over again just because it was a good, entertaining fight, it's not going to do a service to any of their careers.
I actually think we might see them face each other for the title. Just judging by how highly you spoke of Stotts, for you to speak that highly of a fighter, I think says to me a lot. And he's already ranked 4. He's just beat rank 3. There's only 2 fighters to go against now. So
he's gone under my radar somewhat. In my ignorance, I hadn't heard of him, but certainly heard of him now, and I'll be taking close note of him. I want to try and do a little bit of study about him as well, watch how he's evolved. But I think he's already at the skill set where he's going to trouble absolutely anyone in that division, and being as ranked as size 4, I suppose you expected to. But I think this is a guy that has got a hunger for it and in a state of evolution, so it's only ever going to get better.
Yes, indeed. So there was 2 more fights on the main card. We had Divine Franklin defeated Everett Cummins via a KO in 20 seconds of round 1. It was brutal.
Yeah, didn't actually get to see that one. I know it was very, very quick, but I didn't see it.
It was only 20 seconds, mate. It was it was over before it was even started. Just quickly bringing up my notes from it, just to remind myself. So the round begun. Cummins came in to attack Franklin with some leg kicks. Franklin fired off a big leg kick, which dropped Cummins, and then he followed it up with a head kick. Franklin sort of pounced on him to ground and pound, and it was done.
Right.
And
was this the one? I think I might have saw a clip of this. Is this where his hands were coming up off the mat?
Yeah, I think so.
And he done the kick. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was a bit. It was a bit close call, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Yes, indeed. And then the final fight, which we're going to talk about this evening, is the ones which I got to pronounce these names again. They just make it difficult for me.
Bestayev.
Kazmiriat Bestayev versus Tai Guerda. See how I pronounced the first name as well, Danny, there?
Yeah.
So
I'll leave that one too.
29-28 across the board. What did you make of this one, my friend?
Yeah, hang on. I'm just trying to recall because I can't get it up at the minute.
So this is all right.
Wasn't this a surprise decision?
Yes, I think it was. It was 29-28.
Who did it go to in the end?
It went to Bestayev, but I think a few people thought that Tai Guerda should have got it.
It was. I kind of was confused about this because Guerda had a really good first round, not such a good second round, but a really good third round as well. I just can't see how they gave it to Bestayev. I just can't see it. And there's some boos in the crowd, wasn't there?
Yes.
But it was a really good fight, a really gnarly fight.
Said afterwards that he was surprised to get the win. He felt like Tai Guerda had won. So
Steve, absolutely, yeah. I think Bestayev should have kept it or needed to keep it long. But Guerda just kept on pushing through, really using a lot of energy. But with that use of energy was getting some of the results that he wanted, although he went through some difficult times as well. By busting that amount of energy, there was a couple of times when he got caught and got hurt when he was in that state of fatigue and started looking vulnerable. But he kept riding through, and he was the person trying to do more things. He was trying to land the big shots. He was trying to do the takedowns and succeeding quite often. He had some aggressive top play. I just can't see how they gave the fight to Bestayev. I just don't know. I'm scratching my head about it.
I had it marked down as 10-8 for Guerda first round.
Yeah.
And then I had 10-9 to Bestayev second round and third, which would make it 28-28. That's what I had as it as a draw. But it is what it is.
I didn't see it that close. Yeah, I don't know. It's for people to look at it and judge for themselves.
Who I've seen who would know more than me had Tai Guerda winning, and I saw a lot of predominant journalists and media analysts saying similar. There was a couple who felt that it was a draw, but not many people had him winning. Is the other thing.
He did some really big takedowns though. Really big takedowns. There was times when Bestayev was he kind of just scooted to his bum at one point. Didn't even try to defend the takedown.
Yeah.
It just made Guerda look more visual to me.
Most people that I saw, like analysts and journalists and stuff, they'd said either Tai Guerda won, and I saw a couple say that you could see a draw.
Yeah.
To give it to Bestayev was just a strange one, I suppose.
Yeah, I think initially the reason why they may have give it the nod was because Guerda was the one that was bleeding. Guerda was the one that got put into that triangle. Remember that triangle situation? Yeah. I think Bestayev could have done better to try and get that submission. I think he should have concentrated on bringing the head down, but he seemed to be targeting the arm. And I think that allowed Guarda to get out. It takes more energy to try to work on the arm while you're holding a triangle. I think if he was that fatigued that he couldn't work something on that arm, he should have just been holding the head, pulling down, extending the hips up, and just giving it his all to put him out. But he didn't do it that way. He was trying to make things complicated on that arm. But maybe that was, scored quite highly with the judges. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. But Guarda got out of it and was really proactive thereafter. I don't know.
Yeah. It was a very strange one, mate. I will say that much. Do you know, I wanted to talk to Sam about this, and I completely forgot, but we'll talk about it about this UFC card on September the 4th. But just briefly, a couple of bits of news I want to make mention of and discuss, get your opinion on. Jorge Masvidal set his sight on UFC Gold, and he would like to fight Gilbert Burns or Leon Edwards next. Look, I think they both beat him, but I think there'll be good fights. So give me those. But I do think both would beat him. But it's just, it is what it is, isn't it?
Both of them are good fights. So they're certainly ones I'll be interested in to see how they throw down.
Oh, mate, let's talk about fights that we're interested in. So, UFC fight night on September the 4th. Okay, so this is sort of to be confirmed, but also is pretty much confirmed because it was scheduled to be in London, but it was moved to Vegas because of COVID reasons. So I'm going to focus predominantly on the kind of British fighters, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 16 fights. So I'm going to focus on the British fighters and the big fights. But you've got Irene Lipsky's fighting Mandy Bohm. You've got Molly McCann fighting Ji Ying Kim. You've got Lerone Murphy fighting Charles Jourdain. Jack Shaw fighting Saeed Nurmagomedov. Paddy Pimblett fighting Luigi Vendramini. Mark DeCasey versus Rafael Alvarez. Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Modestas Bukauskas. Tom Aspinall versus Sergei Pavicic. Mahmed Ankalov versus Ozdemir. Alexander Gustafsson versus Paul Craig. And Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. What do you think of that for a card, mate?
It's a super treat. That's going to be some long reviewing when we have to watch all those.
Wait, do you know with that, right? They could take out a load of those fights, and I would be so intrigued by it because Molly McCann's fighting, obviously a Scouse lady who's on a bit of a bad run, but she's been working hard. You see her on Instagram and things. You can see she's working hard. Jack Shaw is easily his biggest fight ever. And a real test against Saeed Nurmagomedov. Paddy Pimblett's UFC debut. Tom Aspinall making a real step up in quality of opponent. Modesta.
And I like what that Aspinall said. He said about that, look, I'm not ready to go for a title yet. I liked how he spoke after his fight. He's like being realistic to his level. No, I've got more to learn. So this guy's going to have true potential, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Darren Till fighting in the main event, of course. Then you've got like the Gustafsson and Paul Craig fight. That's going to be an incredible fight. And obviously Modesta, someone you're very familiar with, fighting Khalil Roundtree Jr. That is such an intriguing fight to me because Khalil Roundtree Jr. of course is getting older. Of course he is. We know that. But also he has the power and the quality to capitalize on any mistakes made. But equally, it's like a fight that if you beat him, that's a hell of a name to beat. Do you see what I mean? I can understand Modestas' thinking and taking it because it's such a big name and it's a big fight. but it's a risky one as well because Khalil Roundtree Jr. is no mug.
Yeah, no, he's no mug. He's got holes in his game. I don't know what I'm not having dealings with his training for this fight, so I don't know what his prep is like. He always comes in shape. There's a few things that I would disagree about how he warms up on the day, etc., but he's got other coaches such as his dad that deal with that. That worries me that it might take his energy away from the fight. I've always worried that he overtrains regards that fight week. Maybe if he's put that to rights and saves that energy for the fight, we could see something different with Modestas. The other issue that I have with Modestas that I really wanted to put right, especially if I stayed being one of his coaches, is his ability to cover in the pocket. He's a very, very good medium and long range striker, but when people know that that's what you've got in your arsenal, people are going to push close. This is what we saw with that last fight. Although many people felt that he edged that fight, he was running around the outside. You can't do this with Roundtree. You can't just run around the outside. You've got to tuck in. And if you don't tuck in with your strikes a little bit from with occasions, you've got to try to draw this guy on so you can take him down. Now, I'm not too sure whether Modestas has the wrestling capabilities to do the takedowns, because a lot of what I was doing for him was stopping him from being taken down, in the training. He come with me when he had really zero wrestling capabilities, basically. And, I'm pleased to say on my part of the job that he wanted me to do, I stopped him getting taken out at all in UFC. He was, never been taken down. So, that part of it I know about his game and feel confident in, but has he got the capabilities to take someone like Roundtree down, which is, I feel, where he stands the best chance to win. Yes, he's a good striker, Modestas, and yes, Roundtree's also a good striker. I'll put the power in favour of Roundtree, the experience in the power of Roundtree, but I put the young and youthful athleticism in favour of Modestas. But Modestas is very much an unknown entity here because he's still improving on the job. So it's going to be really interesting on what new skill sets he's going to bring to the table and how he chooses to utilize it as his strategy to try and get around the conundrum of figuring out how to get the win against Roundtree. So this is going to be super interesting for me, and one that I can watch without any pressure on myself, only as a friend. That I want him to get the results. I want to see those changes that I feel that he needed to make in his game. I hope to see them come to fruit and him get the result and push through. But he needs this win. I think if he gets this win and he does it in really good stylistic fashion, we'll be seeing Modestas still in UFC. If he loses, unless he puts up an absolute amazing performance and loses, he may stand a chance of staying in, being at that last fight. A lot of people felt that he won and wasn't a disgraceful performance by any stretch. He may stay in the UFC, but he's got some pressure on his shoulders. And if he can push through, get this victory, with this kind of pressure on this full fight in UFC, this will help strengthen him, and he's only ever going to become a better person and a better fighter for it. But a lot's running on this, a lot's riding on this. It's all down to how he deals with that pressure and how his team choose to strategize him to keep him safe, keep him relevant, and get this fight where it needs to be got to get the victory, which I feel is going to be eventually on the mat with him on top. I think that's where he can beat Roundtree.
Yeah, and I think, look, we haven't seen that in terms of knockouts and finishes and stuff. We haven't seen that version of Modestas in the UFC yet. And I think when people see that, if he's made the changes and the improvements to his game in other areas, of course, he's talented enough to go and keep improving and be a big talent in the UFC. But he's under a great deal of pressure. I did think he won that last fight. Probably it was close though. The Jimmy Crute fight, of course, was brutal and that was difficult. I think that Gaz has put a comment there. He says Modestas hasn't turned up in the UFC yet. I think that's a little harsh in terms of he fought Jimmy Crute, who's like going to be in the title picture before very long. A lot of people felt like he won his last fight or the one before? Like there was he had a close fight which people felt like he won. He hasn't shied away from fighting anyone. Like Jimmy Crute was huge. So he lost to Michel Ojciewicz in a split decision, and I think people felt like he had won that one. He lost to Jimmy Crute, okay, and then he won obviously his UFC debut. I think it's unfair to say he hasn't turned up, but I also think it's fair to say we haven't seen the best of him in the UFC yet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Your first fight, I think you did see the typical Modestas. He's won both his last fights in similar fashion in Cage Warriors before going over to UFC, which, is defending the takedown, being really aggressive with the defense of the takedown, which is something we really drilled into his game. He was woefully effective. I just think that Crute fight, that decision for his second experience in UFC, was a bad career move. I think your first 4 fights that you have on your contract are there to try to get as easiest fights as you can, get the results, because the second contract is the one that's going to give you financial security. You're going to be earning a lot more money. But to take those type of fights, fighting someone of the skill level and potential of Crute on your second fight not a good idea. Not a good idea. And for me personally, I never liked that matchup because I knew where Modestas was weak. I know he's weak in that close medium and close range. I know that's where he is vulnerable. And I know a camp and a fighter that's got experience will know where to take it to make Modestas' striking flamboyancy less effective. And Crute did that. And so did his last fight where, although it was a close decision, many people felt that Modestas edged it. He was made to look very, very uncomfortable, and he had to get on the back pedal a lot because he doesn't know how to do that in close defense work. It's not even the delivery of strike. He's got lovely delivery of strikes, but he doesn't know how to be in the pocket relaxed where he's slipping and covering those strikes so that he can be relevant himself in the pocket. You won't see him very, very, very effective in any of his previous fights in close. I was never shy to tell him how I think he should cover those weaknesses in his game. But like I say, he's not under my guidance anymore. Hopefully he did listen to the things that I said, because I feel like it will help him evolve as a fighter. But it's a difficult situation because he ultimately come to me for wrestling, for the grappling, for the anti-wrestling, and less so for the striking. But I did say to him a couple of years before he got to UFC, as I said, look, as you get through, we're going to get those results. I said, you will get to a level where you need to add some other things into your striking, because people will know how to make your flamboyancy less effective. And I did keep dropping this idea in and say to him, look, give me a chance to try and work some MMA style elements into your striking so you keep your relevancy. So basically, I was trying to say to him that if you can learn to be in the pocket and punch and push them to the outer ranges, he could then bring his flamboyant kicks back into the realm. But when you're just solely relying on those spinning kicks and trying to be flamboyant, people are going to see it. They're going to push closer. They're not going to give you the space to express that kind of dexterity of kicks. But if he has good solid defense and slipping and covering and punches back in that pocket and pushes someone else out, he will then deliver the kicks as they extend out. And I think then you'll see a true world-class Modestas.
Fair enough, very good show. I'm very, very interested in that card, mate. We'll talk about it in detail probably in a couple of weeks' time when a lot of these fights haven't been confirmed yet. But that is, and the journalist who put that card out, is one of the better. And we all know that the majority of those fighters were scheduled to fight in, on that date in the London card. So it's not like a secret. But Jack Shaw, Said Nurmagomedov is what's the word? Fascinating, I think, is probably the best.
It is absolutely fascinating, yeah. And out of all those interesting fights, I think because I've got such high hopes for Shaw, that's the one I'm like, we're going to find out where Shaw. Look, even if Shaw was to lose this, we're still going to get a little taste. We're going to get a taste of, is this guy going to real be a title contender in the future? Because he's such a young lad yet. But as much as we say how young he is, this kid performs like he's got experience 4 times the experience that he's showing on his fight. Yeah, the guy's incredible.
What is he now? 20-0.
I don't think as much as that. I don't think it's quite as high as that.
As high as that, is it? It's 14-0, I think.
14-0, yeah.
14-0.
But I would not be surprised at all if Jack Shaw.
So he's on a 26-fight win streak. He's 14-0, and he is 26 years old.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Gaz sent in a question and said, if Jack Shaw taps Saeed out in, comfortably, does that shoot him up the rankings than if he had just beaten like another?
Yeah, no, it shoots him up all right. Yeah, because I think this is going to just make people in that top 15 start sitting up and thinking, wow, this kid's got 15-0 as it would be then, under his belt, and proving that that's not a hollow sort of scorecard to go on. That's a career that's going to be 15-0, and it's real. There's nothing fake about it.
It's going to be interesting, mate. Really interesting. Cannot wait. Very, very quickly, mate. Let's have a quick look at next week's UFC event, and we'll just give a quick prediction. So we got Jared Cannonier versus Calvin Gastelum.
Gastelum blows so hot and cold, doesn't he?
I know. It's difficult.
I'm going to go Gastelum. It's really hard. I'm going to go Gastelum.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I go Gastelum. Some great fights next week, actually, on some of the lesser known names. Like Trevon Jones is fighting Mana Martinez, that's going to be a good one. Alexander Pantoja is fighting Brandon Royval. They're on the prelims, I think, though. There's a heavyweight, Chase Sherman versus Parker Porter. All them are a mixture of prelims and main card.
Yeah, Clay Wheeler's still in there. The guy amazes me. I've met this guy. He's proper tiny. I met him in London. The guy's so small, but he's a super sound guy. Yeah, Clay Wheeler, tiny little guy, but an absolute bundle of energy. He's not a young man anymore, but he still comes with the energy of someone 10 years less than his real age. But yeah, I don't actually know much about that Mark Madsen. I don't really know how good he is. I mean, 10-0. I mean, it looks impressive and that, but I don't know how solid that unbeaten results really is. Clay Wheeler, he's still a real performer. He's developed his striking so he can be effective. He's brought some even kicks into the equation in his last number of fights. Definitely is an aging foe. Definitely isn't quite the Clay Wheeler of old, but cannot be written off at all for the fact that he's got such good conditioning. He's got that really difficult wrestling style that, if you allow him to get in on you and keep taking you down, he'll start squeezing the fight out of you. And he could well do that still. So my heart goes with Clay, although I'm a little concerned that he's getting over the hill and he might not be pulling it off against someone that's 10-0. But I'd really need to look into Mark Madsen to know how strong that 10-0 really is. But yeah, I'm fingers crossed on a little personal note for Clay Wheeler. I'd like to see him keep winning, especially on a co-main.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Right, guys. Please do download the audio version of this podcast. Join us tomorrow for the football show, 7:30. We're joined by ex-professional footballer Joe Riley, who's very, very recently retired as well. So that's going to be a fascinating discussion, as well as discussing the opening weekend of the Premier League. Subscribe to YouTube channel, and of course, please do download the audio version of the Sports Social website. And myself and Danny will be back next week with Luke Shanks. So come join us. It's going to be very, very interesting to hear Luke's opinion of his fight with Sam tonight. But Sam was phenomenal. Danny, it's a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny